Good morning, everyone. This is 10 News Conference. I'm Gene Valicenti. Big news this week. Governor McKee trounces Republican challenger Ashley Kalus. Seth Magaziner pulls off a second congressional district upset. The red wave proves just a ripple. And the suit beats the stars, with voters approving a more tailored approach to sheriffing in Bristol County after 25 years.
I think of my mom, and everybody knows my mom. Everybody knows my mom. And I took the numbers tonight at my house with my mom, and she was thrilled. And she wanted to say hello to everybody.
When we started this campaign 9 months ago, we did it to advocate for a better Rhode Island. A Rhode Island that people can be proud of. A Rhode Island that is the best state in the country to live, work, and raise a family. And while we may have not won tonight, we should all be incredibly proud of what we've accomplished.
We were behind in every single poll. Every single poll. Every single pundit thought we were going to lose.
I believe with every fiber of my heart that we together could make a difference for Rhode Islanders and for the country. Thanks to all of you, this was an exceptional journey.
We now have a mandate for change. The voters spoke, we have a mandate for change. And so I go in and I'm going to reform a system.
Look, it is what it is, and we got to move forward. And we got to unite as a country. We've got to come together. You know, as disappointing as it can be, we need all of us to sort of, Democrats, Independents, Republicans, just come together and recognize that, you know what, it's about the people. It's not about the individuals running for the office. It's about the people.
Holding the powerful accountable from Washington, D.C. to right here in southern New England. This is 10 News Conference with Gene Valicenti.
Well, good morning again, everyone. I'm Gene Valicenti. Winners and losers. This is the election night recap. Let's go over it all with my guest, Wendy Schiller from Brown University, our political analyst, Brian Crandall, our political reporter. Let's dig right in. Let's begin with Governor McKee. No surprise there. He beat her by 20 points, and that's a big margin. We haven't seen that in years, Wendy.
I think the surprise was the magnitude of the victory, Gene. I mean, I think people thought, he'd do well, but there was meh enthusiasm for him, and then he won barely the Democratic primary, and then he just really got his people out the door. I mean, he really, hammered, I think, Ashley Kalus in terms of what she would do, what her experience was, and he really emphasized he had been a good steward for the state, he had done things well, and he cared about the economy, and he would keep his eye on the prize.
He had a close call with Helena Bonanno folks in the primary, but after that it was smooth sailing. Now, Brian, I had heard that night and day of election, she's cut the lead to 3%. You're not going to believe this, you're going to get a big surprise. Did you hear that too?
Well, that was the buzz going around that, you hadn't seen a poll now in almost a month before Election Day, and then it was about 10 points. And so, and that was kind of the word on the congressional race too, and that did prove to be true. But I guess that was all just a bunch of hooey. And, is it that he was that good of a candidate or she wasn't that good of a candidate? And I think we've talked about this before. Just about any Republican in a gubernatorial race in Rhode Island can muster in the mid-30s to 40%, and she didn't break 40% after spending more than $4.5 million of her own money. So, again, what does that say? And is it just the question of where were you before the year and a half when you moved to Rhode Island, and what was your experience then? And Dan McKee saying, listen, I took over at a tough time and led the state through a tough time, and look where we are now. We're in pretty good shape.
She couldn't shake the carpetbagger stuff. Couldn't shake it.
And without exception, most of the state offices, not all of them, were about a 60-40 split. I also think turnout was higher. I did not think turnout would be that high in Providence, Pawtucket, Central Falls. I didn't see, because there was no mayor's race, I thought maybe there'd be depressed turnout among Democrats. Turns out turnout was very strong, and it could be that the theme of democracy failing and everybody has to get out and vote, that could have penetrated Democrats even in areas where they had no contested races.
All right, let's go to the 2nd district race. Now, as Seth Magaziner said, all the pundits were wrong. I don't know if we're pundits, but I thought Fung was going to win just like everybody else, because that was the narrative since this thing started. Fung's got him by 5,000-6,000 votes. It's not going to be a blowout, but Fung's going to take him. And he was on Fox News twice a week. CBS came in, but in the end, Magaziner took him. And I've got some numbers to show with regarding day of vote, mail-in, and early. That's a factor here, Brian.
Well, I think just overall, and we look back at the primary as well, that's what really turned the tide. And in particular, in the general election, when you factor in the mail-in ballots and the early voting, it's overwhelmingly for the Democratic candidate, and that's what did it. The people who come out early and mail in their votes are more Democratic voters, and is that again speaking to the effort of the Democrats to get those people to get their votes in?
Certainly with seniors, the combination of shifting gears in his advertising 3.5 weeks before Election Day to Medicare and Social Security and talking about what the Republicans would do to it if they got the majority. Instead of just saying don't give the majority to the Republicans, he got more targeted what would happen to seniors. And I think the Democrats have a good operation in getting the senior vote out, and they tend to vote by mail, and that's what helped McKee in the primary and obviously what helped Magaziner.
Let's put the numbers up and take a look at these. Now, Seth Magaziner, the Democrat, this is day of, polling place, 64,598. Look at that mail-in number, 13,000, early voting 22. Now let's put up Alan Fung and see how he compares. Alan Fung, who was the Republican, look at that election day. He had him handily, 73,000 versus 64, but the mail-in ballots and the early voting is where Magaziner caught him. So he caught him weeks before the last debate. Now, what does this say about the way we're running elections? Why is that not mirror day of voting?
Well, I think this is something we have to really grapple with, because more states are adopting mail-in ballot overall. Like, you can't even go vote if you wanted to in person. And I think that it's really becoming more important for Republicans who are getting better at voting early. So you've seen a little bit better turnout among Republicans voting early because they're starting to understand you want to rack up those tallies, early. You don't want to take any chances. Get to the poll and get voted.
When it goes back to Donald Trump in a way, sowing the seeds of unease about voting early and mail ballots, and that I think still plays out that Republicans are less likely to do it because of that, and they're losing on that front. So they come out on Election Day, but again, the people who are voting early are mostly Democrats.
All right, so let's hold on. Why is that? What's going on? By the way, we have the party chairs coming in right after we wrap this up. We've got the Republican Party chair and the Democrat Party chair. What's going on? Why are the Democrats so good at getting people to mail in ballots and getting to the vote early? What's going on here?
Well, part of it is accessibility to voting. So if you think about people over the age of 65 or seniors who may not be able to get to the polling place, that's labor intensive for the party on Election Day to get all those people to the polling place. When you have an option to just get them a mail ballot and then mail it for them, then it's much easier and much less labor intensive for the Democrats. So it's a smart strategy. And people who have odd working hours, people who have kids and have to drive them to school, could maybe, if it's raining out. Yeah. Democrats have learned that their voters are more affected by election day conditions than Republican voters typically, so they work harder to get them out early.
They've got a better army to do it. They've got the unions will go to their aid. They've got a ground fleet of people who go out and talk to the seniors. Can I help you? Can I help you get a ballot? What can I do for you? And that makes the difference. It's clear. Rhode Islanders will vote Republican. We just saw that. They will.
Yeah, better organization, and I don't know if you wanted to take credit away from the debate. I think that last debate in the congressional race I think Seth Magaziner was very strong in that debate, and he definitely, as Wendy was saying, kind of pivoted to the Social Security and the Medicare, and he's going to cut it, and the Republicans are going to cut it, or at least raise the
and that could have swung age. Whoever was undecided, the weekend before the election was going to vote in person, that could have swung. And we know that nationwide, independents were supposed to swing for Republicans by 4 or 5%. They swung for Democrats by 3%. So I think that hurt Alan Fung a little bit.
That last debate I did, Magaziner came in prepared. And he grabbed more time than Alan Fung. Alan Fung, he kept kind of his answers short on a couple of topics. I think Fung's strategy was, everybody tells me I'm ahead. Let me just get in and out of this. It was a 4 o'clock debate. I'm not, as long as I don't, make a big gaffe, I'm good to go. Magaziner had to come with his A game. Would you agree on that?
Yeah, no, and he was a better debater. And sometimes we say, debates don't matter. But I also think it's just very tough for anybody in New England in the Republican Party right now to match up what they would do versus what the National Party rhetoric is. And I think it's just getting tougher and tougher. If someone like Alan Fung, well-liked, well-respected, been around a long time, can't win when the odds are stacked in his favor, that's partly some of that National Party rhetoric coming in and undermining him.
You would think this was their chance. Right? The supposed red wave, Congressional District 2, Rhode Island's red-leaning parts, the more suburban and rural parts of Rhode Island. You've got Cranston, where he was the mayor for a long time. Warwick, which could go either way, votes often Republican, moderate Republican for mayor. So, and Alan Fung is the most well-known Republican in Rhode Island, I would say, over the last decade, and he hasn't been able to win a big race.
I do think the national.
Go ahead.
Okay, I do think the National Party rhetoric hurt him more than if that hadn't happened. If you didn't have sort of really right-wing people running around, maybe even Trump, I think Alan Fung might have fared much better because he could have made the claim that he would be independent in the tradition of John Chafee and some other Republicans in New England. So I think that might have also been the edge.
All right, Wendy Schiller, Brian Crandall, thanks. 10 News Conference continues. The State Representative Joe McNamara, the Rhode Island Democratic Party chair, also Susie Yankee, the Rhode Island Republican Party chair. Well, welcome to either of you. Why don't you start it off? Is there anything you'd like to say to him or anything you'd like to say to her? Look ahead, address your co-panelist here. He won.
Yes, he won.
Yeah.
Congratulations. We always want Rhode Island to be successful. So we wish anybody that won in this race to be successful. But I also think it was low voter turnout. And I think that our message is we're the party of opportunity. We want good jobs, good schools, and your ability to raise, live, and work here in Rhode Island. They're the party of death. They're the party of killing babies. They're a party of killing education, and they're a party of high crime. So that message didn't resonate with the voters, that they just voted against their interests.
Well, Joe McNamara, that message certainly turned quickly. I thought we were going to be a little diplomatically here, but she right out of the box.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play?
So go ahead, your turn.
I think that this election really demonstrated that an outsider like Ashley Kalus that came in and spent $5 million getting the same results as Pat Cortellessa, who spent $3,500, showed that Rhode Islanders are smart and elections cannot be bought in this state. And quite honestly, after Thanksgiving, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a moving van pull up in front of Kalis's second home and she moves on to another state. But I was very pleased by Seth Magazina's victory.
I'm sure you were.
And I think I was standing with Seth at 5 p.m. outside of school, an elementary school in Gaspé Plateau, and he said, "Joe, what do you think?" And I said, "I just came from the Scottish Rite, which is a polling place in Patuxent Village in Cranston, and they're turning out there very strong, over 1,000 votes, and they're all yours." And he ended up winning that 1,400 to 400 over Fung in Cranston.
So you just can't say they're the party of death or they're this or they're that. They beat you soundly.
Yeah, they beat us.
I mean, so they're a lot more than that. They
Sure.
appear to be the party of Rhode Island.
Well,
Baked in, dyed in the wool.
Right.
That's the Ruggs pattern.
Right.
You're not undoing it.
They're not. We weren't undoing it, but when I came in, I said there's a 12-year plan. We've got to build a structure.
Oh, the 12-year plan. Wait a minute. Let me challenge you.
No, I'm going to.
12-year. I remember then Senator Chafee going back to Lee Garment. I was at the news conference. That was a 5-year plan.
Yeah,
what happened?
But I came in and said a 12-year plan because there was no structure in the Rhode Island Republican Party. We didn't have a field game. We had no field operations. This time we had the most candidates that we've ever had run, 66 in the General Assembly. And that's a huge improvement over 2018. A lot of these people were first-time candidates. When they came in, we said you have to run twice. Now, when he talks about Ashley Kalus spending a lot of money, look how much money that the Speaker had to spend. He ran against a first-time candidate that actually was holding him accountable. And that's part of our job too as a minority opposition party, to hold these people accountable. Most of those candidates that ran this time said that they're in again for 2024.
Okay,
so they'll be paying attention to anything that gets passed up. And we've got to get our message out better. Hey, you're voting against your interests. These are people that closed your schools for 2 years, that had your kids masked, that the crime rate is high up in Providence. Is it really, where's your jobs? Where's the economy?
Go ahead, Joe. Get back in. Go ahead.
Let's talk about, as my late mother used to say, God bless her soul, action speaks louder than words. The fact of the matter is, we gained seats in this particular election. The House Minority Caucus went from 10 to 9. So we were victorious there. But the message is, you cannot be the party of no. And that's what the Republicans have become. Their legislative record was voting against the phase out of the car tax, voting against the $250 tax credit, voting against the tax-free pensions for veterans, voting against Social Security tax-free for the first 20,000. One rep, whom we defeated, the Republican, sent out a mailer saying, I worked through bipartisan support to phase out the car tax. Ironically, his opponent, who won, sent a mailer out the same day. Here is the record of initiatives that he voted against, including the phase out of the car tax. Mm-hmm. And this polarization that has taken over our country, I've seen it because I've been in the House for a while. 20 years ago, we would sit down with the minority party, and we had minority leaders that would say, okay, we'll work on this, we'd get bipartisan legislation through. Today, they're voting, one representative voted for the budget.
So take 30 seconds to rebut, but I'll begin you in the next segment. Go ahead.
Okay.
Because we got to take a break.
Certainly, there were 11 amendments that were added by Republicans to that budget process, and they were voted down. That included more home health care for low-income housing. You all voted against that. Those were good amendments that were put into the budget by the Republicans. So we're not the party of the no. We are the party of let's talk about Zambrano Hospital. We were the ones that made Governor McKee give more funding to those low-income people. So again, it's our communicating our message that we're there. We have good solutions. We have good solutions, and the Democrats voted against it.
Joe, just hold
and their
up.
party is moving so far to the left that it's not helping average, everyday Republicans.
All right. Let's, you mean
And
Democrats?
you gave money. I mean,
no, she means Republicans.
No,
that's what she said.
No,
Okay.
no, Democrats. It's okay. It's also, Governor McKee gave out 3,000 bonuses to everybody. He handed out money. And in fact, when we knocked on doors, people said, I'll vote for this person, I'll vote for this person, but I'm going to vote for Governor McKee because he gave me $3,000.
Okay,
He bought your vote? Yes, he bought my vote.
Party chairs continue the lively discussion, I guess. This is Sue Yankee with the Republicans, Representative Joe McNamara for the Democrats. Keep going. We're doing good television here. All right, I want to put up a screen. This is a day of voting versus mail-in versus early voting. Let's put up the 2nd Congressional District race. Seth Magaziner, polling place, this is day of. Look at that number, 64,000. Remember that number. Mail-ins 13, early voting 22. Now let's go to Alan Fung. Polling place for Alan Fung, day of on Election Day, 73,000. Mail-in, though, much lower. Early voting, lower. What's going on here, Sue? They're much better at getting early voters and mail-in ballots. Why is that? Why wouldn't that group of voters be the same as this group of voters?
Because I think Republicans like to vote on Election Day. They like to go in. They like the community atmosphere. I particularly love voting on Election Day. I like going in. I like showing my ID.
Do they like losing?
No, they don't like losing, but you're talking about Democrats like to vote by mail. So they vote by mail.
This is the game has changed.
The game has changed.
Rules.
Right. These are the new rules. And we have started working on a mail ballot operation. But I'm telling you, Republicans do not like to vote by mail in this state. Other states, in Utah, it is a red state. They do an all-mail ballot operation. They've done it. It's trying to change the culture and saying this is an option.
You better change it. You'll never win an election again. Let me ask you this. Before we go any further, in other states, the Democrats and the Republicans accuse each other of shenanigans. As of today, we're taping on Friday, election is over. You're satisfied, fully satisfied with the vote, the count. There's no complaints, nothing.
No, and I think that
does no mean yes, you're fully satisfied.
Yeah,
no complaints.
No complaints about the election process. I think that there are always irregularities in every election, but not enough to change the election. So I say if anybody is worried about it, get involved. Last election cycle, we had 60 poll watchers. Yep. This cycle, we had well over 700. So we had people involved in the process, and once they're involved in the process, they believe in the election integrity. So stay involved.
McNamara, day of, you lost day of in the congressional district. How is that possible? But you beat them 3 weeks ago with the early voting and the mail-in ballot. What's going on?
We accommodate. People's lives are different today. It's not an agricultural, regular work schedule. They work evenings, they work double shifts, they work nights. Mail-in ballots accommodate a modern lifestyle, as do early voting. We want to make voting convenient for citizens. And speaking of mail-in voting and learning about it, the Republicans hired the mail ballot king,
Oh, I heard
Buddy
that, yes.
Cienzi's guy. So don't tell me, don't be crying on my shoulder saying that, oh, we don't understand it, we can't do it. You're just probably, you have put forth this myth that there is something wrong with early voting. There is not. It accommodates modern work schedules.
How do you do it so well?
Well,
This is a free advice for the
Okay.
Republicans. How do you do it so well? Do you have a ground army?
Okay.
Are the unions out there burning up the shoe leather? What are you doing?
We had this year one of the greatest ground games that I have seen in 2 decades for several reasons. Due to the races that were involved, one of the things that many Democratic candidates do is for, say, individuals over the age of 50.
Yeah.
When you're sending out your letter, please find the enclosed mail ballot application. Call me if you need any assistance.
Yeah.
And people will call me on my cell phone. I can't, how do you fill this out? What do you do?
How do you fill out a ballot? People
How do
ask you how to fill out a ballot?
Excuse me, how to fill out a mail
ballot application.
application.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Listen, they're also in the senior citizen homes.
Yes.
They know where they are.
Yeah, they know
and
where
some
they
of them
are.
are in the nursing
And they bring
homes.
food
They're
in.
very,
Yes.
very good at this.
No doubt. And-
how
and
will you
that's-
have a competitive race if you don't get as good as he
and
is?
that's part of the lesson learning. You know, you have to get into those senior centers. You have to do exactly what Dan McKee did. He went in with a sample ballot already filled out and crossed out the Republicans. You know, that is not illegal.
Time out.
No, that's
Republicans
not-
do the same thing.
Yeah, it's not illegal.
It's not illegal.
It's
It's not
smart.
illegal. They do
It
the
is a
same
smart
thing.
Is it
campaign.
wrong, though? Let me ask you, is it wrong to hand somebody who might be elderly and maybe not quite as sharp as they were when they were 40 a paper and said, please vote this way? And the
Yeah.
governor hands it to you of all people.
Here's a piece of paper that says, vote for Joe McNamara
Yeah.
and don't vote for the opponent.
Yeah, it's smart
That's all.
campaigning. It's smart campaigning.
You're in the senior citizen homes, we know that. Look, you know how to work it. Are you in the nursing homes as well? Is there anything that you think they're doing that is
so
wrong?
the nursing homes, if you look at the election, there wasn't a high turnout. Now, the Let's Vote Rhode Island, they sent mail ballot applications to everybody in the
Yep.
nursing home, but there wasn't a significant amount. And of course, the Board of Elections allows bipartisan groups to go in there and observe it. You know, it's where the Republicans, you have to step
Okay.
up, you have to show up.
Toward-
You know, my complaint about the early voting is I think our primary is so late. Our primary is 47 days out from the general election. If you're going to keep 20 days of early voting, you've got to move that primary
So
back. It's crazy. And the other thing is when you talk about modern day people vote, if you want to early vote and you don't want to vote by mail, those polling places aren't open on the weekend with the exception of Providence that was open one day.
We're tight on time. Let me just
Okay.
put up a tweet. This is from Ashley Kalis's campaign manager, now after the dust settled. Like it or not, mail ballots are now a part of our elections in blue states. If Rhode Islanders want to win, we need to accept that and play the game and play it better. Our party needs to stop making excuses, stop crying foul, and develop strategies to compete in 21st century elections. I've got less than a minute. Susie Yankee, do you agree with that assessment?
Yeah,
I think you do. It's what you've been saying here in different
absolutely.
language.
And we actually went and looked back at 2016, 2018, and 2020. Who voted by mail? We made sure that those people had mail ballot applications just like the Democrats do. We are tiny and young.
30 seconds, Joe McNamara. You
We'll
won.
be
You
back.
got the last word.
Now
30
that,
seconds.
now that they've hired the mail ballot king, Buddy Cienzi's friend, hopefully they'll all take notes and get those Republican seniors to vote early, and hopefully it'll be well monitored and convenient. And I am extremely proud of our ground game, all of our all of the candidates,
Yes.
Republican and Democrat.
You're the DHL of ground games. So thanks for coming in, both of you, Republicans, Democrats. That's 10 News Conference. Thanks for being with us.